And then in our case too, we aimed kind of two weaknesses in the cloud marketplace. One is that once you hit a certain scale, when you're running all these various workloads that you have, but once you hit a certain scale as a company, and again, we're kind of generally targeting companies somewhere in that 20 million to 100 million space to help, is you get to the size where you don't need to adapt your workload to the cloud anymore. You can adapt the cloud to your workload. Cool. All right. What are we talking about today?
Well, yeah, to start with, thanks for joining, man. Much appreciated. I know you're quite busy these days running whatever number of companies right now and wrangling the AI stuff. So, um,
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm excited to be on though. So yeah, and again, you and I have worked together for quite some time, so it's a pleasure to be able to help out if there's anything that I can help out with or advise on or give random thoughts on. Count me in.
cool, perfect. Well, the later one is something that I'm definitely interested in. So all the random thoughts, I'm more than happy to hear them. So fire away. Yeah, well, I mean, all jokes on aside. So essentially, you run three companies, not counting OpenMaya, which is new project, kind of still unwilling, I'd say. But I would like to start from just briefly because I know we have somewhat like limited time today, but I would definitely like to start with beginning of like 20, was it 2001 when you started InMotion, like 25 years ago
Yeah,
now? You
yeah,
celebrated
yeah. We're going
25th
back.
anniversary, right?
Right, right. We did. We celebrated the 25th anniversary, so yeah, I get to count that along with I have a plaque that someone gave me when my wife and I got married. That's in our kitchen, so I keep that one up there. So 2008 is when we got married. So then I also maybe I need an IMH one to remind me when that is. But yeah, 2001, 25 years in. Yeah, you don't forget your when you got married. That's I keep that one fresh. But yeah, so 25 years ago, and it was kind of an interesting time because actually I draw a lot of parallels to what's going on in the AI space. But in 2001, people really didn't understand hosting. They didn't understand servers. There was not a mature LAMP stack. A LAMP actually meant something different even. It was Perl, not PHP back in the day.
Oh, I remember
And
that. Oh man,
Right,
you're
right.
totally right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was different. So, yeah, and today, of course, it's a very standardized. People, it's a relatively straightforward thing to run a web server. But back in the day, then it wasn't. And so a lot of our business was formed around the support function and being able to help people adapt to using this technology and getting their sites online. It was a lot more labor to do so. And I definitely draw analogies to today's space when AI is coming in and people are really trying to figure out how it can be used most effectively for their business or even for their personal lives. And so for me, I'm pretty excited because I see 25 years of opportunity in front of InMotion and other companies similar to us that have a highly technical mind, like as a company, but also have a really good support attitude and a willingness to engage with customers. So I definitely see AI following similar patterns, and I think it probably rewarding companies that are in both a support focused business, even in a consulting type business, because AI is like it's really great at taking like best practices and standard operating procedures and helping people do that particular function more easily. So yeah, sorry, I delved there. Yeah, you were asking about InMotion, and yeah, 25 years. We have a great team in that business and a great operational leadership team. And so for me, I'm excited that InMotion now has another core area to build on. And so yeah, we're doing a lot of AI just enablement ourselves and understanding it in InMotion, but then also it's starting to make its way into our products. And some specifically in the support of AI, however companies want to leverage it, it's starting to make its way into like autonomous new products for InMotion. So it's exciting. Yeah, we're going to have another 25 years of helping people adapt to a new technology.
Perfect. And I think I read somewhere that like what was it, your philosophy, like to bring enterprise infrastructure to everyone, something like that. I read it either it was on LinkedIn or on website maybe.
Yeah. You're cutting over into the Maya One is the new
Hmm.
business, and in its philosophy, it's very similar to InMotion's and to
Hmm.
OpenMetal, I think, which is the brand that I've got today on the shirt here. But we could talk about OpenMetal a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, for Maya One, one of its core missions is to help mid-size companies. Let's say this is in the 20 million to 100 million a year revenue, helping those companies leverage AI because AI, to me at least, is a great um, leveler of the playing field because larger organizations would typically have specialists and specialist departments, even the larger and larger you get, that the smaller organizations simply couldn't have. And so AI allows you, though, to have these standard operating procedures. As long as you take a lot of care with those standard operating procedures, they can be essentially loaded in to the company, whether as something to augment team members and allow them to kind of operate at that specialist level. So that it's probably a longer, I don't know how much time we've got to talk about that stuff today, but we have a lot of theories and then again, some practical things that are coming to market for us that are along those lines. So yeah, I did definitely excited about those things, but again, being able to bring them into all of the other businesses, Open Metal included in that, and InMotion, of course, can leverage that stuff hugely. And again, ourselves as InMotion as a company, but also helping our end customers adapt to this.
Right. So one thing that I wanted to open with, and I typically do with like what's the, and usually I talk with startup founders who are able to like, see at a certain point in time, they see a problem and then they figure out what potential fix for it is, and then businesses form around that. So in your history, there's hosting, then after hosting, at some point later, you started OpenMetal, still in cloud slash hosting kind of industry, similar, not the same, but
Hmm
similar, right?
hmm
And then later, when AI became the thing in like past few years, you saw that opportunity as well. But I'm interested in what were particular problems that you saw along the way that made you start hosting OpenMetal, uh, then Maya.
yeah. For hosting, it was one of those that I think for me in particular, I like being part of helping companies or individuals pick up new technology. So we're a service company that happens to do technology, which I think allows us then to be flexible as the new technology comes out. So we're not married to a specific technology or approach, which I think is going to be great for us actually with AI because AI disrupts a lot of these roles that you would normally, like say, if you really had a lot of value as a business or personally in a particular skill set, AI is gonna have to adjust your thinking. You may have to adjust your thinking as AI comes in. And so for us is like, hey, our one of our missions is to help people understand this technology. Kind of gives us the freedom to go, right, we can adapt to that. We can pick up this new technology also and start to figure out how we're going to use it. And then, but with the mission of learning how to teach it and then supply it as an easy to consume service. I think that's giving us a real advantage to this. Not to say it's not hard to adapt, because yeah, there's definitely changes that AI is causing. Particularly like in say development space. Developers are learning to work differently. With AI, it's definitely going to be a different kind of process. Let's say 5 years from now, than it ever used to be before. For definitely for people that are really married to direct coding. Obviously, that's going to change a lot. Yeah, so for us and for me, I think we always just recognize that as this new tech comes out, where might we fit in more effectively? Um, Hosting is a great business, and we love helping people run sites effectively and not have to worry about the kind of nuts and bolts of the server side of it. Cloud, Open Metal came about similarly, where we said, hey, we can actually help cloud workloads be run on our platform and understood more clearly by customers. And then in our case too, we aimed at kind of two weaknesses in the cloud marketplace. One is that once you hit a certain scale, when you're running all these various workloads that you have, but once you hit a certain scale as a company, and again, we're kind of generally targeting companies somewhere in that 20 million to 100 million space to help, is you get to the size where you don't need to adapt your workload to the cloud anymore. You can adapt the cloud to your workload.
Got it.
And again, this has to do with a level of spend that you might have on a cloud where, yeah, it just says, okay, effectively you can move. In our case, we do two things at OpenMetal. We do private cloud and we do bare metal. And it allows companies, again, once they've hit this certain spend level, they still need to be cloud native, like no question, that is a real advantage. But you can start to adapt the cloud to you. And the big public clouds, of course, that's not their business. They're like, hey, you adapt to us, and in fact, come in and use our specific services so that you can never leave us, right? Like that's kind of a position that they definitely take, right? Which makes sense from their perspective. But once you hit a certain scale, you just don't need to do that anymore, and
You
especially as
you just
cloud
want
systems have
OpenStack.
gotten easier. Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, in our case, yeah. So we definitely run several of the open source systems, Ceph and OpenStack being primary ones. But it allows you to have your own private cloud. Again, this is at scale. There's a tipping point. Public cloud's wonderful for a certain size, no question. And you should adapt your workloads to their model because it's easier and faster and more efficient to do so. But as you're learning to be cloud native, you can also recognize there is a tipping point when you don't have to do that anymore. And in fact, both the performance and the unit economics will tell you, okay, let me just run my own cloud systems. And then in our case, that's our job. We enable and support companies when they make that choice, both with a mission towards unit economics and then empowerment of their team. And our team will ride along with a service level and a support level, because that's consistent with, at least for me, all of my brands, to be able to help customers do that. And then we can plug in, listen to the issues that they have. And again, it gives us this freedom of adapting to what they need. But our mantra generally is, yeah, so you let your cloud adapt to your workload once you've hit a certain scale. Take advantage of that tipping point. You should as a business.
Yeah. At some point, there was also, I'm shifting gears a bit because I've just remembered that I forgot to mention Bolt Grid as well. So that was a product essentially that grew out of InMotion, or it was developed for InMotion. What was it?
Yeah, yeah. So BoldGrid sits in the space of WordPress plugins, and it is enabling people to more effectively run sites. Our primary plugin in that case actually is Total Cache, and Total Cache is million plus websites out there, and it's an accelerator and essentially helps sites run fast. And so it's one of the second or third most popular caching systems that are
Everyone knows
out there
it.
for WordPress.
It's like
Yeah, yeah, very, very,
W3ATC.
yeah,
Yeah.
very technical, but it has functionality that for the really technical, when you really get down into its like really detailed settings, let's call it. I would say it's the fastest one out there. There's several things that you just can't do with the other plugins that you can do with Total Cache. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember it's like, but the one thing we never touched on it really was like, for example, fragment caching. So
yeah,
I
there you
know
go.
it's very good for example, I'm guessing e-commerce stuff, right? When you can, take certain frames that you want to cache or skip cache, whatever you like, wherever you're coming
Yes,
from. But
very popular with agencies also that have used it on more than one site because it does have so many things inside of there. And this is definitely a discussion with the team back and forth. Is it's got so many settings and features inside of there. It does take a bit of practice to make it run
yeah,
beautifully. But it also, I don't others may disagree, but it's one of the few where you can really truly get the site running beautifully. The other plugins will tend to keep you at a little bit higher level away from the nuts and bolts that let you really fine tune it.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep. So
remember.
BoldGrid's in there. We have Web
Yeah.
Hosting Hub is also in there. So that
Okay.
brand is a little bit lower dollar brand. It's a little more accessible for people that are running sites that are, yeah, kind of a little bit more in the blog world or in the smaller size. And then InMotion focuses on larger sites. Tends to work with marketing departments of pretty good size organizations. It'll work with agencies. It's very popular with agencies and also very popular with founder-led Smaller businesses, think the 2, 3, 4 million dollars a year. That's also a very popular buyer of the InMotion brand.
Cool. You mentioned so I mean we mentioned WordPress obviously, and now with AI and everything that's happening, how do you see this space changing? I tried, but I didn't really see like a good. You're familiar with Lovable, right? So
Yes, yes. Yep.
I didn't see really a good let's call it under quotes WordPress Lovable because I need it, and I think agencies need it right now. Um,
I think we're yeah, so we're very familiar, and in fact do use Lovable and other systems like that to run some of our sites, and have I have given and helped companies kind of make choices about whether something like a Lovable or a Claude pipeline, a Claude code pipeline for building sites is right for them versus a WordPress path. We're in that spot right now. I would say like the adoption curve, we're going through the adoption curve with AI, right? So a lot of early adopters are in there trying to figure out what to do with it. And a lot of stuff that's being built, and Lovable had some really like record months where there were new sites being built, but a lot of them are just being built as experiments or for fun. Early adopters will pay for stuff just for fun, right? I do it myself. Lots of people do it, right? Like,
Yeah, but a lot of a lot of different prototypes are built there and then just migrated, when they confirm their purpose and
Yep, yep,
right.
absolutely. Prototypes are popular there. And so, yeah, I would still say though that we're in that early adopter phase with some of those builder systems, but it's starting to approach early majority. Yeah, early majority. And early majority that type of buyer does tend to have like a specific purpose, and it could end
Yeah.
up that like a lovable built site becomes the permanent one. And again, we do run some of these ourselves as production sites to help us understand where and how that might come in. So for me, as a huge and longtime fan of WordPress, yeah, we're definitely working on things that we use this AI to like take care of some of the rough edges for WordPress, some of the maintenance things. Like
Mhm.
we've got new products coming out for InMotion that are associated with server management that can help people run the server more effectively, help maintain the site more effectively, check your security more easily because there's unfortunately a lot of security issues now coming up as AI is enabling the attackers, the I guess the more malicious or non-white hat attackers. It's enabling them to be more efficient finding issues and bugs and open doors. And so we're definitely focusing on that as well for WordPress. But I do see that yeah, there's going to be a challenge for WordPress in the future as these new systems come online and essentially enable people that didn't used to be able to do development to do development. So WordPress, obviously, you would go to a plugin because you yourself weren't able to build that. But as these new tools enable people to build functionality, maybe very specifically and quickly, yeah, WordPress is going to need to change a bit to adapt to that. But there's a lot of stuff about WordPress that you do need you need a content management system. So,
Yeah, but
maybe the days, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
do you think that like WordPress is an instance that needs to like initiate this change or some like kid programming right now building websites figuring out how Lovable does it on their end and has like paid Claude Code and says, oh, okay, I can build an agent that can actually build a WordPress for me just by setting up proper like skills and prompting it nicely. So do we need WordPress to do anything there, or it's enough to have someone like eager to make a change and then WordPress adapting it?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, if we think, I think and let me just make sure I understand what you're asking here. Is it if you're asking like, does WordPress as a community or WordPress, the automatic side of WordPress needs to be leading more in that area?
No,
Yeah.
I'm just stating that I don't think we have to, or rather asking a question, whether we have to rely on WordPress community to initiate this change, or for example, I can do that, right? Or some kid that has like Claude Code and figures that he can build an agent that can automate a lot of building blocks in WordPress, and then it becomes a plugin, and then it gets acquired by InMotion and implemented it in their workflow, and then all of a sudden we have a lovable for WordPress. I'm just saying
Yeah, I wonder. I think if you're, this is probably the challenge that I would see for WordPress is that the most of these new systems, Lovable, Claude, etc., they generally default to building things in standard development ecosystems. So WordPress wouldn't be, like a development ecosystem, right? It's a site and content management system. So most sites, yeah, Lovable builds in React, right? React,
it's
Vite, and I think it's still client-side rendered. Although there's some adaptations for server-side rendering if you're
yeah,
using Lovable, so that for SEO purposes.
which is
But
why
in
it's
that
bad for
case,
SEO
then
actually. Yeah.
yeah, I think they've generally fixed that. React, well, any client-side rendered sites, and I'm speaking from knowledge maybe 6 months ago, so yeah, maybe hopefully
I did.
hopefully
I
it's pretty accurate. Yeah.
I actually did the research there. So Google is able to recognize that it's client-side rendering, and it just deprioritize indexing of those websites. But for example, I didn't see Bing doing anything with them.
Yeah, yeah. So because we do run sites with React v as the stack. Yeah, we ended up having to introduce server side rendering, and so we do run it in and build the site actually in Lovable, but then it goes to our own build
Yeah.
process, and then it introduces server side rendering. So yeah, I wouldn't say that. Google deprioritizes it. It just in their search in the indexing engine, it just places it into a different queue because there's so many sites now
Might be. Yeah.
that are client side rendered, but not all crawlers can actually render the JavaScript and then actually surf the URL in order to ingest each of the pages. So I'm pretty sure ChatGPT changed over to that, and I think Claude did as well, where they actually have a secondary queue that if they don't get back sufficient HTML
Mhm.
and the content in the first pass, then it'll actually place it in another queue to have it rendered properly in a JavaScript, front end, and then actually ingest the content. And I know that different companies are trying to push this idea of like just having a .md riding along next to the HTML, and so
Yes.
that's intended to be consumed directly
Yes.
by a crawler. Yeah.
When I was doing this research, actually, you're right. It was different queue. It wasn't deprioritization. It was different queue for Google. And when I was reading about Bing, how they do it, that was kind of messy. And then someone recommended MD file that will, tell it what the content is, so it doesn't
Right.
have to wait for a server to render something which is not there, essentially. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely this stuff is changing because it's very common now for people to be using ChatGPT or Claude to even ask about, today's information, which forces the LLM to go out and actually look it up and look at the site and try to make sure that it's that information is, if it's, especially if the algorithm thinks it's their algorithm thinks that the information might be more fresh than what it has in its training memory, then it's got to go fetch it. And even then, it likes to go fetch it anyways because it centers it and then gives it more of the
yeah,
context that's specific
context
to what you
exactly.
were asking for. Yeah, yeah. So it's just getting its own context. But yeah, I would definitely watch out if you're using those. Do your test. So if you're going to use React Feed, just go into your favorite set of LLMs. You're going to want to do your top ones. You got to do ChatGPT. You got to do Claude. You got to do Grok probably. You got to do
Mm,
Gemini. I always kind of
yeah,
forget Gemini, but you'd want to go in there and just go in there and ask it, go look at my site and tell me what this page is. And if it goes, I can't look it up because it's a server side, it's a client side rendered JavaScript, you got a problem. And so then you can address that and figure out what you have to do with your site to make sure
true,
that they can crawl it properly.
true.
But yeah, but if we wanted to circle back to WordPress, um, for
So
WordPress, yeah, yeah. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead. Take
yeah,
take take me where you want to go. Yeah.
yeah. So this is my thought process. So we also do a lot of website for our customers in our web dev part of the shop,
Okay.
and we waste a lot of time like building templates, building custom plugins, building a lot of
Okay.
stuff that you can literally automate. And we are doing something in this space. And now it's just a matter of time whether we decide to make it a plugin or if it's even, if it has a capacity to become a platform by itself. I don't know, but I can definitely see something that agencies will definitely have to or will want to use. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I would agree with that. As I do see some of the coolest new sites that are being built. They're clearly being built by like somebody with great design taste and like a vision, and they're built, but they're clearly AI coding it, vibe coding it, and then later
Yeah.
cleaning it up or having somebody clean it up. But well, that is one of its superpowers, is you can have somebody with like this great artistic vision in their head that would always have had to throw that idea away because it would have cost so much to code it. They get to make it now. That's
Yeah.
a superpower, and you really want to watch out for that I think, is a business that may be in that space that used to be the one that would get those requests from the really creative one. Yeah, the creative vision can now go directly to paper, go on screen faster. That's cool, right? That's like a really exciting thing because that lets us all kind of be craftspeople again, be artists again. And so for me, I find that valuable too. Like I do that. I'm not really creating maybe visual stuff. Sometimes my great art is like standard operating procedures, so that's like the worst kind of art probably ever. But I was always like, oh, it really should be done this way. It's easier for the person, and you get to leverage the text. So yeah, my art is SOPs, which is this awful art, but like still, it is something that for me, I was like, oh yeah, I wish we could have done that the right way. And that's where I go back to like for the Maya one, this company that's one of its visions is to bring these standard operating procedures into an AI enabled, we call them rigs, in order to let people run that rig to do that function. And that function used to have tons of repetitive steps in it. Write this, tweak this, post this. Like, oh my gosh, how many times do you want to do that for the thousandth and one time? No. Like, let me come up with the idea and what the content should be, or what this new system should be, or this new software should be. But I don't need to carry the repetitive steps anymore, which to me, I think is just wonderful. Again, it lets you be a craftsperson again. But you can do it, being a craftsperson, but doing it in bulk. That's kind of I don't know how that actually works, but we'll see. But anyways, yeah, yeah. So I'm wandering around. What am I supposed to be talking about?
No, no, no. That's perfectly on track. Actually, you just reminded me of one thing that I didn't. I wasn't deeply thinking about it until one of our friends and colleagues, George, by the way, hey George, if he's watching, listening.
Nice.
So he mentioned something that really kind of stuck with me a few weeks ago. So we were talking about different revolutions in industry, like from, I don't know, steam machine through like, Ford doing their thing, um, assembly line, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you think about it, all of those inventions replaced human labor. But this is the first time when we are actually seeing something man-made that's replacing intellectual value and power, right? So it's something that's scary from that perspective. Um,
I wonder. I don't know if I hear that theme, and I hear people say that. I don't know if I've ever tried to really absorb that view of it. Um, I wonder.
I'm not even advocating
Yeah.
for, but it's something that stuck with me, and I'm thinking about it. It is,
Hmm.
and I'm someone who's really looking to a lot of different times throughout history to learn whatever I can learn. I'm really like a history geek, and I don't see this happening any time before right now. It's
Do you think of, maybe this is me? So yeah, it's a great question, a great dialogue. I think then for me, I tend to think of and use AI myself and encourage use in others for this is find your 1,000th thing, the thing that you've had to do 1,000 times, and fix that. And don't do it the 1,000th and one time. Go figure out how you can use an AI pipeline, a rig, a harness, whatever you want to call it, for it to do that repetitive work for you. So instead of you being on the factory line shucking the stuff, which again, right? We do standard operating procedures, we do content, we create these pieces, these individual pieces of work many times. And to me, I look at that and say, that's great. Like I get to make my own little factory line. I don't have to be in the factory line anymore. This is, and I'll go a little sideways here on us. The really big CRMs. I don't know any leader. I don't know anybody in the CRM that ever truly loved their CRM. And part of it, this is my view of it, right? Nobody does, right? Like you're like, oh, you're kidding me. I got to fill this thing out, do this drop down, and like make sure I don't forget to put in this key thing, which if you do forget it, it absolutely is going to mess up your deal. So yes, you should do it. But the fact is that's making you part of the production line, and do you want to do that for the 1001st time? No, you didn't want to do it for like the 10th time, right? Like, so wasn't very far in. You're like, oh my gosh, I hate this CRM. And not to bash on them too much, right? But like that's the nature of a CRM, right? Like you need consistency, you need data in there. You're trying to make it a source of truth that never truly is a source of truth, right? But you try to so that you have continuity with your customer, you have continuity between players that on your side and on your customer's side. And there's an absolutely key reason that that existed. But I look at that and also say, like, there's got to be something better because again, you're asking people to be in that production role in the production line role, and maybe that's a job for AI. Like that's actually I think great for that, and then that lets you step
Okay.
back. Like as a salesperson, think about this. Like as a salesperson, if you spend less time futzing around with drop downs and instead you're working inside of an AI rig with an AI counterpart that's doing all that stuff for you and is automatically doing that research, surfacing the things that you're like, hey, here's your Venn diagram between your product and this customer and this user within your ICP. I mean, think about how powerful that would be. Is like, and you get to like have your salespeople be more focused on the customer instead of doing this rigmarole inside of a CRM. I don't know. To me, I think I look at it the other. I think it depends on where you are in your career. I'm sure as to how you're feeling that this is affecting you. But my hope is that when we come out the other side, people spend a lot less time doing the repetitive tasks and instead
Okay.
find value in the closeness with their customer and the focus with their customer's problem, the actual issues. Use AI to help you surface that. But to me, I don't know. I don't think AI is going to replace the creative changes and applying systems. Yeah, this is, I think a lot of people,
Hmm.
yeah, you can see maybe I need to be more afraid, I guess. I hope not. That would be a bummer, but
Well, I mean,
yeah,
for example, like start asking, what do you call them? Web designers. Let's just stop there. Like, so
yeah.
their work is right now 100% replaceable. It's obsolete. And it's creative work that we managed to replace with a machine, you know? I just one example that just popped into my head right now. But I actually have this one. I'm not sure if I can share it here. I would love to be able to do that. But for example, there's already music being made.
Yeah,
Someone
yeah.
said like 30% of content on Spotify right now, music content, is AI
Yeah.
generated. And what?
Though, the thing that I always say though in that is unless the AI was the one that said, you know what, I'm gonna go and make this new music and I'm gonna use these different beats and I'm gonna use this different
Okay.
influence. It's not doing that. It's
Okay,
not the
true.
creator. It was just that you didn't have to go in. I don't know music enough, but like you didn't have to go into whatever that older software was and go, drag this in, increase this thing, turn this dial, and to try to find that, like be the DJ that's mixing that music up. You don't have to do that anymore. But whoever types in that very first prompt that says, I want this tweak with this, and I love samba, and maybe I want to mix it with some techno, and I loved this one show that I saw in Vegas, and
Yeah,
here's a clip from it, and I want you to put that together because I see this thing in my head.
sure.
Um, yeah, I
So,
mean, we can program. AI to do that, I suppose. And so you got like your meta person kind of trying to figure out that
So
stuff. I think the artists, I think they're more, you get more art. Yes, I agree that like it was made by AI, but it was directed by me. I did that. I
yes.
gave it the context. I used the tools. I imprinted what I loved and and then when I heard it, I went, oh, that does sound great.
Again,
But that's
I'm
because
definitely I'm not advocating pro or con, right? So I'm just saying it is replacing 100% creative minds because right now I can create my own music. I'm not a musician. I love music. Music has like really special spot in my life
yeah.
and
So
I love
it made
listening
you the
to
web designer. It made you the web designer, right? It made you the musician.
not
I
designer.
definitely get that it is, yeah, that
it,
it
it
is
it made me a
moving.
prompter, right? But I mean, it's so there is no art anymore in it. So there's music, there is the end result, but there is no art in
Yeah.
it. You know,
Do
that's
you think that, yeah, do you, when you, because it's definitely an interesting experience as people go through this. Do you see your taste
Mhm,
during the kind of process as you go through and you see, let's say, like we did this actually for our new brand
mhm,
recently, and definitely it made the mood board for me. I didn't need a designer back in the day where we would say, hey, here's the brand, here's who it sells to, here's how technical or warm or earthy or etc. that we feel like it is. And then the designer would go away and a week or two would come back and say, hey, here's the three designs that I came up with from this. Give me some feedback on these three. Then we'd give them feedback on the three. They'd come back with another three that were associated with whichever were kind of our blended favorite out of there. Yeah, that process definitely has been shrunk way down, and you're definitely going to the AI to do that. Um, and in that case, yeah, if you're saying like it cuts out that function, yeah, I think no question that that's very
so
different. Yeah.
let me share something with you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so now let me see.
Yeah. And I would say I don't I definitely don't disagree with you that it is changing roles significantly. So like a standalone creative designer. I would also say like imagine what happens though if you give them these same powers. Like we definitely can still make like V1, but think about how the bar is going to get raised so high when you put one of them who is this like really skilled designer it now and they can do this stuff so fast with their own new rigs they're
Yeah,
still going to beat me out. Like, no question.
for
Their art
sure.
is going to kill out my art. Just like
For sure.
my SOP is going to kill out their SOPs, right? Because I'm better at that than they are, right? So,
Yeah, but that's now the question of philosophy, really. It's a philosophical question, actually. So whether it's art if it's made by AI, it's Uh, I know a lot of people would actually argue it's not. It's a product. So this that I'm gonna share with you is
yeah.
actually made
Okay.
with a single not necessarily single prompt, but it was a prompt. It was given the genre. It was given I think either lyrics or just a direction, like use this person's music and make it a soul version of it, right? So
Yep.
let
Yep.
me see if you can see it. You see it?
Yeah. Okay.
What up, blood? What? What up, cuz? What? What up, blood? What? What up,
Cool.
gangsta? What? What up, blood? What? What up, gangsta? They
So
say I
this
stroll
is all
around like I
AI.
got a crest on my chest. Nah, that's a semi and a vest sitting tight on my chest.
And so on. It's like perfect. You
Okay.
know what I'm
Okay.
saying? It's perfect, right?
And
So
so this was created by I guess you
100%
could
AI.
say but by someone who
Yeah.
could recognize that what the output really was quality. It's as an uneducated one, that sounded pretty good for me. I don't know the space that well, but yeah. And so I guess then the question is just because the person who prompted it compressed down dramatically the production process, the production line, right? It didn't go through a production line. Musicians working it out 3 or 4 or 5 times, 20 times. It's still repetitive work, right? Um,
But I
but the
mean,
person that heard it,
you didn't have composer, you didn't have artist performing, you didn't have a
yeah.
person behind the guitar, behind drums, behind bass, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, 100%. It's super disruptive. Like I would say, no question, super disruptive. Um, did the person though that did those prompts walk away? They listened to it, of course, right? When it came out the side, and it probably didn't sound as good as it did in a one-shot prompt, right? Like it came out the other side, and they listened to it and went, "That's good," because they had the ear for it. They could recognize that it was good, that it was like at that level where you go, "Yeah, look at that. That does look like something that was produced well." I don't have the ear for it, so I couldn't say if like that's great or not. I always say like this about AI. It's brilliant at being like a 5 out of 10. And if you're a 3 out of 10 in something, it sounds great to you. And so
hmm.
like for me, I don't have enough skill to judge that. I would say that sounds pretty good, but I'm a 3 out of 10. So it made a 5 out of 10. It was pretty good.
But do
But
you really
imagine if
need
you
to have a
were
skill? Do you need to have a
to
skill? I mean,
judge it.
uh-huh.
Yeah, I would say so. I think, and again, depending on where you are in your ability to judge those things, again, this is what again, maybe AI will make a 6 out of 10, and definitely they're trying, the big LLMs, they're trying to push that up. Um, but yeah, I would still say that like, yeah, can it do 6 out of 10 work? Maybe.
Hmm.
7 out of 10, it doesn't feel like it yet. 8 out of 10, probably no. 9 out of 10, no. People will argue about that, but it's usually because they can judge at a different level than I can. They're just like, no, no, it's wonderful because they themselves are an 8 out of 10 and they prompted it until it got there
Okay.
versus somebody who doesn't know anything about it makes it and then says, oh, that's great. Here, professional 9 out of 10 look at it. And the 9 out of 10 goes like, no, no, that's not
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can
That's my
see.
thought. That's my thought. Yeah, yeah.
I can see that, but then again, I'm totally devil's advocate today for this, obviously.
Yeah,
But
yeah, go for
so
it.
the average consumer is not 8 out of 10 musician. They are consumer. They
Yeah.
are consuming something that used to be art created by artists, but now it's just a product, uh, like developed by AI.
Uh, yeah, I mean,
If it
they,
if the way I'm
yeah,
thinking about it, if it amuses me and I'm fine with it being created by AI, I'm fine with it. So like a few days, I was just listening to this album like nonstop. I loved it,
yeah.
but I can't say that I would buy it. I can't say that I would like. I can't value it the same way that I value a musician that I actually listen to
This
or value
isn't,
in. Mhm.
yeah. Well, I do think there is value in knowing what you're buying, right? Like, so people buy organic because they want to know what they're buying. And people and those choices have come up through the kind of the macroeconomics of the world, and people want to be more educated consumers. There's one of our a friend of mine, you could say, and a customers of ours. They have put up this concept. It's my mini factory. We've spoken about them publicly before. They do it's a marketplace for 3D printed things, and they have this concept called soul crafted,
Hmm.
where they ask their artists to be clear about how things were created, and that there is a certain level of identification to say this was made by a person in, let's say, the more traditional fashion. Now, I think it's a great thing that they're trying to navigate. Like, what does that mean exactly? So, if you're doing 3D printed art, you're using a set of software already, right, in order to create this art, and you yourself are reviewing it through a more traditional pipeline. Now, as the pipelines change, what is considered the medium that you as an artist work in, right? Like, so this will be part of the trick too, is like, what is that? Like, so if I don't hand draw something, and I do my art a different way, is that where's the line that says, what that means, or what is the traditional way of doing something?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think people should pursue it for sure. Like for me, I'm very excited. And again, these are really enthusiastic people over at my mini factory. And I think I love that they are advocating this because I think you need this balance inside of the marketplace where they say, yeah, this is soul crafted, and they're gonna work through this structure. What does that mean? Organic, what does that actually mean? And then you get like vibrant people behind it, and they represent a certain part in the community or in the market. I think that's awesome. I think it's very necessary. So I am also not saying like, hey, all in on AI without that. I think that wouldn't be wise. I think you need a balance for sure.
Yeah, I totally get your point. So, not advocating for any like specific point of view. Well, a point of view on I think point of views are important, but so I don't think it's going to disrupt everything. Like everything's going to be disrupted. Whether something's going to be good or bad, I don't know. But I opened with this statement that, not statement as much as really recognition that this is the first time that we're changing intellectual work. And that scares me a bit. But then on the other hand, even right now we do it whether we are forced to do it or just because it's fun. But you yourself also you create different agents to automate, if not replace, people's work and whatnot. We do it internally here as well, and this is actually something I know you don't have much time after 5 more minutes, right?
Possibly. So
No,
let's keep going. But yeah, I do have a hard stop coming up maybe in 10 to 15. But
yeah,
actually for us, yeah, we generally, our philosophy corporate wise is we don't look at cost savings approaches to implementing AI. So for us, we definitely look at empowering staff, empowering myself, empowering people, and then allowing us as a business to have a higher goal. So actually for InMotion, I'm super excited because the growth is coming again and we have a new place to go to. So for me, I'm very excited that our team is going to be able to take on these different specialist things that we didn't do before. And we get to raise the bar on ourselves and grow at the same time. Now, will the ratios be different? Yeah, I think so. But we don't know what the bar is going to be, right?
exactly.
Like, so people yeah, definitely got a lot of companies who are racing in and just saying, oh, let's cost cut. That's the mission. That's what AI can do for us. And it can. But what happens if your competitor takes the other approach and says, you know what can AI raise the bar to? What are the new ways that we're going to be doing this? And how are we going to leverage this? And just think about like, yeah, if people jump out, cost cut, and really don't take the approach of the bar changing, the bar is going to change. I would
Yeah.
say that's a fundamental. I think we know that. Again, maybe the art. I don't know. The art is a special one, right? Like especially, yeah,
Well, I
like
just use
music and graphics
I
and things like
used
that. But
I
yeah.
used art just as an obvious example to show how intellectual work can be replaced, but it can be anything
Hmm.
really. Now we can argue whether a code that was done by programmer was also art under quotes, and
Yep.
now it's
Yep.
replaced
Yep.
by what Claude Code. And so this is something I wanted to, because I know we don't have much time today, but I would definitely wanted to scratch surface right now because I want us to lean into what these agents can do, what you do with them, and leave a bit space for next meeting to maybe dig a little bit different because I think it's huge area right now, this agentic
Okay. Okay.
approach, right?
Yeah.
So can you walk us through like what you're currently working on when it comes to agentic approach and where it's going essentially from here?
Yeah, I think probably the most clear one that for us is that we kind of subscribe to this philosophy that functions in your organization can be augmented by AI so that the person responsible for that has to do less of the repetitive work. So we definitely kind of just have this philosophy to say that, hey, major functions are going to be augmented. And then the person gets to kind of live in this workspace or rig and operate that function using their AI assistant. But that AI assistant, it lives in a rig, which is a non-ephemeral, actually Linux based because we're in the hosting space, the cloud space. It's a non-ephemeral workspace that accrues the knowledge of the function that it's doing as people move in and out of using that rig to do it. So an easy one would be, okay, we've got to go to market for a new product coming. We need to get all of the sales material, the marketing material out there for our particular ideal customer profile, and then the buyers and the users. And that can be a lot of stuff. Different people want to consume and learn about your product differently. So let's pick a number. You need to put out 200 or 300 unique small consumable pieces of content. Could be video content, could be written content. That's a big job in the past. But today you can basically set up this, use one of our rigs, get it tuned up so that it's going to be doing this job for the next couple years, and then a person gets in there and runs these different programs to say, okay, well, I'm in this sector, so I can do a gap analysis against our competitors. What are the material that I'm missing? Okay, cool, got that. Okay, what's the popular trending things that are going on? Okay, I got that. I've got a set of content that's going to come from that. But to actually go and write these hundreds of things, that would be repetitive work. Like, you don't need to do that. Now, I do say this is a rule that we have. Whatever your pipeline makes, AI augmented or not, you're the final fact checker QAer. You must read what you wrote, you and your AI pipeline. You must go read that. And if it's not correct, you need to fix the process that you use to make that. And definitely, if it's not right and it did it in bulk, you need to fix that. But then the time is spent looking critically at the content that you've produced. Does it actually address the use case the customer, or the usage the customer might want to have with how our product works? Go read that. And I'll tell you, some of this stuff that I get, because I'll use these systems, I learn, like, that is a great way for this use case to apply to our stuff. And I never thought of that before. But you must be the final QAer. You must take the time to read it and absorb it and go, awesome, that taught me something during this process. That was valuable. It's valuable for other people to read. If you would like, this is a very pet peeve of mine, but it's a valid one, is if you as a marketer spewed out a bunch of junk that you didn't even take the time to read, you just made the internet worse. Like, it's just a fact.
I agree.
Don't do that. Take your time, produce high quality stuff, but you can produce that high quality stuff easier and focus on the critical points, not on the writing and not on the spacing and the dragging this box around or figuring out what category it's going to be in, or what cross-linking is necessary in your site, or how to make the snippet that you want to post out on social, your organic social. That is done already. You don't need to do the level that way, but you need to stop and think and make sure the stuff that it produces is great. You must be the final QAer, and you must continue to improve your skill level at that, so that what you put out is high quality. Yeah, does that give you an idea of kind of our philosophy? Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, totally agree. And it feels like people generally accepted this replacement philosophy even without anyone actually pushing the narrative on them. Because so I'm using AI, I am spitting out a bunch of junk that would then supposed to be my blogs, posts, and whatnot, and I'm posting them without checking. I'm replacing myself automatically, but I'm skipping over the fact that my signature has to be on it. So legally speaking, and legal is a big part, I think, in this disruption right now, because something will have to push back, or rather pull us back, to remember that we are not replacing ourselves, or at least that isn't supposed to be an idea. You have to be responsible for the work you do, whether you use this tool or that tool. So AI is supposed to be a tool. It's not supposed to be you. And now this is another topic for maybe next time. It can be you, and in some cases it should be you, but like a multiplier of you rather. So, replacing you in reaching more, and not reducing to gain the same, essentially.
Yeah, I like your thinking. I hadn't, definitely the legal part comes in. And that's your name or your company's name on it. And I think mine is mine's more the emotional plea for people is, don't put junk on the internet. That does not help anybody. Like, And like you said, I like your extension of it to say your name is on that junk. Do you really want to be known for that? Especially as, people start to ingest that stuff. And, let's say you end up in the AI that and it's quoting you, or you end up, people find that page and it's junk, and you're like, who's this person writing this junk? And they know it's AI. Most people at this stage can recognize AI slop,
It's
and
like,
go like, well,
look, Todd Robinson from InMotion said that aliens are real. It's like, oh, when did I say that?
yeah, yeah. I'm like, uh-oh, I should have read that. That's what I say. You have to be the QAer. This AI is working for you, but the
Yeah.
results come out under your name. I like it. Yeah.
I'm
Cool. All
not,
right. What
I'm,
else? Yeah, yeah. What else do we want to
yeah,
get through today?
yeah, no worries. I just wanted to say, I'm not saying that aliens are not real. I'm just saying that's supposed to be coming out of
Here,
my mouth, right?
yeah, yeah. There you go. Well, here's one that's interesting. I don't know if I can quote this correctly, but if you go, I don't know. I have three kids. I got a 7-year-old, almost 8-year-old, a 10 and a 12, 11 actually. Sorry, and a 12 now. And we were learning about DNA. And if you look up the history of creatures in this world, there's so much common DNA with plants, for example.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so maybe I am an alien. I'm part
Exactly.
plant, I guess.
Yeah. So
So
I think we share quite a like disturbingly high percentage of DNA with genes, essentially with mushrooms, I think.
oh really? Yeah.
Or specific species. I forgot what was it, but it's like huge percentage. I don't want to throw out a number right now because I don't remember it exactly, but it was disturbingly high. Um, well,
Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking in my head, I'm gonna go type that into I use Chat GPT for like
yeah,
that type of stuff, like more consumerish
same,
stuff, and I
same,
use Claude.
same.
Yeah. But I realized as soon as I was saying that, I'm like a 2 out of 10 in knowledge of there. So I wouldn't know if somebody put out junk that the LLM
Yeah.
ingested on that. So I'd have to be careful about how I asked my my Chat GPT to help me understand DNA. Yeah, that's a kind of a weird thing to tell. How much DNA? Yeah, how could we prompt that correctly? I'm gonna go do that after this. This
Yeah.
is a fun thing though. So I introduced my children a bit more to it, but it's really interesting because you have to organize your thinking, or it's the garbage in, garbage out, right? You have to organize your thinking, or be willing to converse with it for extended times so that it can help you organize your thinking. This is one of the superpowers, I think, for the AI engineers that are starting, is they know how to organize their thinking so it's not conversational.
Mm.
Conversational is very time consuming, very time consuming. And so you need to figure out how to organize your thinking ahead of time so that you can get it in there. And we organize, that's kind of what we do is we organize our thinking, then we push them into these like system prompt approaches, and chain system prompts together, and chain like interactions with AI together, to produce these standard operating procedures. And then you don't have to end up in a long conversation to produce something. You can follow a pattern that's already exists by somebody who has taken the time to go through that ahead of time. Um, yeah, anyways, there we go. So,
Cool.
well, yeah. And for those of us who are watching that don't know, Yvonne and I are actually friends. So this is like our creative discussion to figure out everybody. It's good though, I tell you though, because people are going through this change, and many people do feel threatened by it. But I kind of think like, though some companies are taking the strategy of like, all right, let's cut costs. That's what we're going to do with AI. I think sounder minds will come out on top. The ones that have said, you know what, the bar is going to change. This is great new technology. There's going to be a whole learning process, and maybe a job that used to be in this column over here is going to move over here. And I would just encourage people that are here to look behind the curtain and say, talk to their managers, talk to their bosses, and say, well, where's this going to go? How do I be part of that shift over? Because again, for me, I don't see that the jobs will be gone. They're just going to move in a column maybe inside of your org,
Hopefully, yeah.
and you want to be aware of this so that you get a chance to move to there if you love that, or to find out how AI is leveraged you. So maybe you want to pick your new column, pick that new role. But they will be different, and during that disruption, I think you want to be wise about personally mapping what you're going to do with some of this stuff so that, yeah, that you get a chance to learn these new tools and end up in that, the spot that you want to end up in.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Just to close up on this matter before I let you go. I think I didn't really do like a deep research on this, but it feels like the companies that are using AI right now to cut the cost are the companies either like service companies whose earnings are rather linear, or companies that are really not making much progress for past like decade or so. And now this allows them to essentially increase the revenue with less investment, fewer dollars investment per person in the company to develop or to create the same, right? Um, so I think that's what I see. I'm not sure if I'm mistaken there, but it feels like companies that are either earning linear and they need an advantage, or companies that are stagnating for like a decade or so. They use this opportunity to, cut the cost here and there too.
Yeah, that's a tricky the pattern. I mean, the early pattern that I saw was things like the financial companies, data science. They looked at the data scientists and said, that's a very repeatable thing. And AI can come in and help that be better. I don't, you never know really what's going on. These are, a lot of very, very smart people. So they may be making the calculation of like, look, we can go in with a cost-cutting process, bank that money as a war chest, and then but there's 2 or 3 years where other parts, the bar's not understood yet where it's going, and bank that cash, and then reform these roles as it becomes more clear to them where they should be investing that money. And maybe they're just taking the short-term wins to bankroll for the either have the company hold on to those dollars to reinvest once the picture becomes more clear. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
For our fleet of brands, our mission is get out there, start leveraging these things, particularly in the sales, marketing, development places that let us move our product faster and move our releases faster. And then as those get the investment first, we start the growth, which we're excited those things are happening. And then we can start to modify back into the staff with additional augmentations based upon the new products and their successes. So that's the approach that we took,
Yeah.
which I
Create
think I
more,
think is gonna, yeah.
create more with what you have, not
Yeah,
create
yeah,
the
create more
same
of
with
what you
less.
have and then try to figure out your new ratios. Yep, and then go
Cool.
from there. Cool. All right. All right, Ivan, real pleasure. Yeah, keep me posted and then yeah, look forward to chat again.
Thanks, man.